Do you have a relationship with your mom at this
I
point?
don't. We haven't spoken in 3.5 years.
What if I told you that the adorable kid from Home Alone had to legally separate from his parents at just 15 years old? From Macaulay Culkin's fight for independence to Britney Spears' struggle for freedom, the lives of these child stars took dramatic and often heartbreaking turns as they grew up. Here are 30 child stars facts that will ruin your childhood. 1. Macaulay Culkin. Macaulay Culkin became super famous as a kid after starring in the classic Home Alone movies. But even though he was famous and rich, his life behind the scenes wasn't so perfect. His parents, Kit Culkin and Patricia Brentrup, never got married, but they had 7 kids together. Kit, who was also Macaulay's manager, was known to be very controlling and demanding. When his parents broke up in 1995, they fought over who would control Macaulay's money, which was worth about $50 million. It was a messy and very public fight, and Macaulay was stuck in the middle. Eventually, at 15, Macaulay decided to take control of his life and became legally independent from his parents. He stepped away from acting for a while because of how his dad managed his career. Later on, Macaulay faced some challenges with his personal life and got into trouble in 2004. After that, he kept a low profile but slowly returned to the spotlight with creative projects like his comedy website, Bunny Ears. 2. Demi Lovato. Demi Lovato became a star on Disney Channel, especially after the movie Camp Rock with the Jonas Brothers. As a teenager, she faced challenges with mental health and addiction. She has openly talked about dealing with eating disorder, bipolar disorder, and substance abuse. Demi started using drugs and alcohol at a young age, and things got really serious when she tried dangerous substances while still working for Disney. In 2011, after being hospitalized, she revealed that she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. One of the scariest moments in her life happened in 2018 when she was rushed to the hospital after an overdose. It was a life-threatening situation, and doctors said she was minutes away from not making it. After a long recovery and time in rehab, Demi opened up about her struggles and became an advocate for mental health. 3. Amanda Bynes. Amanda Bynes was once one of the brightest stars on Nickelodeon. In 2012, things started getting really hard for her. Amanda was arrested a few times and showed some unusual behavior in public and on social media. It was tough to watch because many people remembered her as the fun and happy star from her childhood shows. In 2013, Amanda's parents took charge of her life through a legal process called conservatorship because they were worried about her well-being. Amanda was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, and she took some time away from acting to focus on her health. She even went to a fashion school and tried to live a quieter life. In 2022, Amanda asked to end her conservatorship, and it was approved. 4. Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan was a huge star when she was young, but as she got older, Lindsay faced a lot of personal problems that made life really hard for her. Her legal troubles began in 2007 when she was arrested for driving under the influence and having illegal substances. She had to do community service and go to rehab. After that, Lindsay's life was full of ups and downs. In 2010, she missed a court date because she lost her passport in France, which led to a warrant for her arrest. Later that year, she was sentenced to jail, but only served a short time because of overcrowding. Over the next few years, Lindsay kept facing legal issues, including being charged for theft and reckless driving. Because of her problems, her acting career suffered a lot, and she had financial issues too. Eventually, Lindsay moved to Dubai to live a quieter life and focus on herself. 5. Aaron Carter. Aaron Carter was a teen pop sensation back in the late 90s and early 2000s. As he got older, Aaron faced many challenges. In 2013, he filed for bankruptcy because he was in debt for over $2 million. He also struggled with addiction and mental health issues, openly talking about it with his fans. Unfortunately, Aaron often made headlines for the wrong reasons, like when his brother Nick filed a restraining order against him in 2019. Aaron tried to make a comeback with his album Love in 2018, but it didn't get much attention. He also used social media to connect with his audience, but his erratic behavior worried a lot of people. Sadly, on November 5th, 2022, Aaron Carter passed away at his home. 6. Jodie Sweetin. Jodie Sweetin became famous as Stephanie Tanner on the classic sitcom Full House. At just 14, Jodie began drinking to cope with her feelings. Over the years, things got worse as she tried other substances like meth and cocaine. At one point, Jodie hit rock bottom, using drugs even before giving speeches about staying sober. She felt guilty and ashamed, especially after becoming a mom. In 2009, Jody decided to share her story in a book called Unsweetened. She talked about her struggles honestly, hoping to help others. After seeking help and focusing on recovery, Jody became an advocate for addiction awareness. She worked hard to rebuild her life and returned to acting when Fuller House aired on Netflix from 2016 to 2020. 7. Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman was a big star in the 1980s, known for his roles in movies like The Goonies, Stand By Me, and The Lost Boys. Corey has been open about how he and Haim were hurt by powerful people in Hollywood when they were young. He shared his story in his book Choreography in 2013, talking about how they were taken advantage of by adults who worked in the entertainment industry. Corey explained that this kind of behavior was common, but many people stayed quiet because they were scared. Corey says that the trauma from the abuse made life really hard for him and Haim. Both of them struggled with addiction as they got older. Haim sadly passed away in 2010, and Corey believes that their painful past played a big part in it. In 2020, Corey released a documentary called My Truth, where he named some of the people who hurt him. 8. Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore was born into a famous acting family, so it's no surprise she became a star early on. Drew grew up too fast. Her mom took her to clubs when she was just a kid, and she was exposed to adult situations way too early. By the time she was 9, Drew was drinking alcohol. At 10, she tried marijuana, and by 12, she was using stronger substances. Things got so bad that when she was 13, Drew went to rehab to get help. After rehab, Drew still struggled, even attempting to harm herself at one point. She knew she needed to make a change, so at 15, she became legally independent from her mom. This allowed her to start fresh and take charge of her own life. As she got older, Drew made a huge comeback. She starred in popular movies like The Wedding Singer and even started her own production company. Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman became a huge star as a kid when he played Arnold Jackson on the hit TV show Different Strokes. Even though he made a lot of money from acting, Gary faced major financial problems. His parents and manager didn't handle his money well, and by the time he turned 18, most of his $18 million was gone. Gary took them to court and won $1.3 million, but it wasn't enough to fix his financial issues. Besides money problems, Gary also had serious health challenges. He was born with a kidney condition that required multiple surgeries and daily treatments. On top of that, he faced legal trouble when he was accused of getting into a fight. Gary's personal life was tough too, especially after he married Shannon Price. Their relationship was rocky, and they even divorced after a year. Gary tried to keep working, but his career never fully recovered. Sadly, he passed away in 2010 after a fall that caused a brain injury. 10. The Olsen twins, Mary-Kate and Ashley. Olsen became famous when they were just babies, playing Michelle Tanner on Full House. As they grew up, they starred in tons of movies and TV shows, building a huge brand around their names. Eventually, they moved into fashion and became successful designers. But being famous at such a young age took a toll, especially on Mary-Kate. In the early 2000s, fans and the media started noticing that Mary-Kate looked really thin. Rumors began to spread about her health, with tabloids suggesting she was dealing with an eating disorder. The media didn't stop talking about her appearance, which put a lot of pressure on her. In 2004, representatives confirmed that Mary-Kate was getting help for anorexia. Growing up in the spotlight wasn't easy, and both sisters faced a lot of stress. They eventually decided to step away from acting to focus on their fashion brand, The Row. 11. River Phoenix. River Phoenix was one of the most talented young actors of his time. Growing up, River's family was part of a controversial religious group called the Children of God. His family left the group when he was still a kid, but the experience left emotional scars. As he got older, River became a successful actor, but he struggled with the pressures of fame and being in Hollywood. Even though he wanted to stay grounded, he sometimes turned to substances to cope. On Halloween night in 1993, River went to the Viper Room, a famous club in Los Angeles. Sadly, he collapsed outside the club and couldn't be saved. He was only 23 years old. The news shocked everyone because River seemed like the last person to get caught up in that kind of lifestyle. 12. Britney Spears. Britney Spears became a pop superstar in the late 90s and early 2000s, with hits like Baby One More Time. But as her fame grew, so did the pressure. In 2007, Britney went through a public breakdown, and the media was all over it. In 2008, her father, Jamie Spears, took control of her life, through something called a conservatorship. The conservatorship was supposed to help Britney get back on track, but it lasted for more than 13 years. During this time, her father and a team of lawyers controlled her money, career, and even personal choices. Britney was forced to work when she didn't want to, and she couldn't make simple decisions on her own. Fans noticed that Britney's social media posts seemed off, and they started the Free Britney movement. They believed she was being controlled against her will. In 2021, Britney finally spoke out in court, saying the conservatorship was abusive. After months of fighting, the conservatorship was finally ended in November 2020. 13. Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf became famous as a Disney star, playing Louis Stevens in the show Even Stevens. As Shia became more famous, he often felt uncomfortable with the attention. He got into legal trouble several times. In 2007, he was arrested for trespassing at a Walgreens. The next year, he got into a car accident and hurt his hand. In 2014, he was arrested at a Broadway show for disturbing the performance. In 2017, Shia was arrested again for public intoxication, where he made inappropriate remarks, which he later apologized for. Shia opened up about his issues with addiction and how his childhood trauma affected him. He went to rehab to work on his problems and tried to take responsibility for his actions. In 2020, his ex-girlfriend, FKA Twigs, accused him of abusive behavior. Shia admitted he had hurt others in the past and wanted to change. 14. Jake Lloyd. Jake Lloyd became famous as young Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. He was just 8 years old when he got the role, and it seemed like a dream come true. But soon after the movie came out, his life took a tough turn. People didn't like his performance in the movie, and Jake faced a lot of criticism. At school, classmates would tease him by making lightsaber sounds and mocking his acting. The bullying was so bad that Jake started to hate being part of Star Wars. He eventually quit acting because he didn't want to deal with the negativity anymore. As he grew older, Jake struggled with his mental health. In 2015, he was arrested after a high-speed chase with the police. Later, his mom revealed that he was dealing with schizophrenia, which made his life even harder. Jake was moved from jail to a psychiatric facility to get the help he needed. 15. Edward Furlong. Edward Furlong became a big star at just 13 when he played John Connor in Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Being famous at a young age made Edward feel overwhelmed. He started drinking and using drugs as a teenager. Even though he kept acting in movies like American History X and Detroit Rock City, his personal life was spiraling. In 2001, he was arrested for driving without a license and being intoxicated. Over the years, he faced more legal issues, including domestic violence charges and violating restraining orders. Edward tried several times to get clean, but staying sober was hard. He admitted that addiction cost him a lot, including the custody of his son. Even his acting career took a hit because of his personal problems. Despite appearing in some smaller films, he couldn't get back to his former success. 16. Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Jonathan Taylor Thomas, or JTT as fans love to call him, was a 90s icon. He was best known for playing Randy Taylor on the hit TV show Home Improvement. At the peak of his fame in 1998, JTT made a surprising choice to step away from Hollywood. Unlike many stars, it wasn't because of any scandal or controversy. Instead, he just wanted to live a more normal life and focus on his education. He went to Harvard University and even studied abroad in Scotland. Later, he graduated from Columbia University. JTT wanted to grow as a person without the pressure of being famous. Over the years, he made a few small returns to TV, like appearing on Last Man Standing with his former co-star, Tim Allen. However, he mostly stayed away from the spotlight. Fans sometimes felt sad that he never made a big comeback, but JTT always stuck to his decision to live a quieter, more private life. 17. Mary-Kate Olsen. Mary-Kate Olsen, one half of the famous Olsen twins, is known for her successful career as an actress and fashion designer. In 2015, Mary-Kate married Olivier Sarkozy, a French banker who was 17 years older than her. The age difference and their different lifestyles made people curious about their relationship. Olivier was more traditional and family-oriented, while Mary-Kate was busy running her fashion brands. As time went on, their differences started causing problems. In 2020, During the COVID-19 pandemic, Mary-Kate filed for an emergency divorce after Olivier tried to end the lease on their New York apartment without telling her. The court didn't process the request immediately because of the pandemic, which made the situation even more stressful. In the end, they officially divorced in January 2021. 18. Mara Wilson. Mara Wilson was a famous child actress in the 90s, starring in movies like Mrs. Doubtfire and Matilda. As Mara grew up, she realized that acting wasn't making her happy anymore. After her mom passed away from cancer during the filming of Matilda, Mara started to see acting differently. She struggled with mental health issues like anxiety, depression, and OCD. Being in the spotlight made her feel insecure, and she didn't like how the industry treated young actors as they grew older. Mara decided to focus on her education instead. She went to New York University and found a passion for writing. Over the years, she became a strong advocate for mental health awareness and often shares her experiences to help others. In 2016, she released a memoir called Where Am I Now? True Stories of Girlhood and Accidental Fame. 19. Kirk Cameron. Kirk Cameron became super popular in the 1980s for playing Mike Seaver on the TV show Growing Pains. But while working on the show, Kirk's life took a major turn. He became a born-again Christian and decided to live differently. Before his spiritual change, Kirk admitted he was mostly focused on fame and money. But after his conversion, he became really serious about his beliefs. This made things tricky on set because he didn't want to do scenes he thought were inappropriate. One big conflict happened when he pushed for the firing of Julie McCulloch, who played his girlfriend on the show, because she had posed for a magazine he didn't approve of. This led to some tension with his co-stars. After Growing Pains, Kirk stepped away from mainstream Hollywood and focused on Christian media. He starred in faith-based movies like Fireproof and the Left Behind series. 20. Todd Bridges. Todd Bridges became famous as Willis Jackson on the classic sitcom Different Strokes. After his child star days, Todd fell into heavy drug use. He admitted that he got addicted to substances like cocaine and meth. One of the most shocking moments came in 1989 when he was charged with attempted murder after a drug dealer was shot. Todd was found not guilty because his lawyer argued that he was too high to remember what happened. Todd's struggles didn't end there. He was arrested several times for drug possession and other issues. It seemed like his life was falling apart, and many thought he wouldn't make it through. But in the early 90s, Todd decided to turn his life around. He got sober and became a motivational speaker, helping others dealing with addiction. 21. Danny Bonaduce. Danny Bonaduce became famous as a kid playing Danny Partridge on The Partridge Family. After the show, Danny felt lost. He turned to drugs and alcohol to cope with the sudden change from fame to a regular life. At one point, he even became homeless and lived in his car. In 1991, he was arrested for assault after a fight, and he faced multiple charges for driving under the influence over the years. Despite his troubled past, Danny eventually found a way to move forward. He became a radio personality, known for his blunt and honest style. In 2005, he starred in a reality show called Breaking Bonaduce that showed his struggles with addiction and personal issues. Even though the show was raw and intense, it gave people a real look at his life. 22. Judy Garland. Judy Garland is remembered as one of the most talented and iconic actresses in Hollywood history. Judy signed with MGM when she was just 13. Even though she was super talented, the studio didn't see her as pretty enough compared to other young stars. They made her feel insecure and called her mean names. To keep her looking slim and energized, studio executives forced her to take pills. They gave her pep pills to stay awake for long work hours and sleeping pills when she needed rest. They also put her on harsh diets, feeding her just chicken soup and coffee. Judy didn't have control over her own life. MGM made her work non-stop and made her feel like she wasn't good enough. This constant pressure and forced drug use led to Judy developing serious addiction issues that haunted her for the rest of her life. Sadly, she passed away in 1969 at just 47 years old. 23. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, known as the King of Pop, became one of the most famous and talented artists of all time. His journey to fame started with the Jackson 5, a group managed by his father, Joe Jackson. Even though they became super successful, Michael's childhood was far from happy. Growing up, Michael and his siblings were under strict control by their dad, Joe. He had big dreams of making his kids stars, but he pushed them way too hard. Joe was known for being really strict, and he didn't just yell, he also hit them if they messed up during rehearsal. Michael once said that Joe would wake them up in the middle of the night to practice, using a belt to scare them into working harder. Besides the physical abuse, Joe would make fun of Michael's appearance, calling him names that hurt his feelings. This made Michael feel insecure, and it's believed that it affected his self-image for the rest of his life. Even when he grew up and became a global superstar, Michael couldn't fully escape the trauma from his childhood. 24. Kieran Culkin. Kieran Culkin, just like his brother Macaulay Culkin, grew up acting in movies from a young age. While Macaulay became super famous for Home Alone, Kieran played smaller roles in movies like Home Alone and Father of the Bride. But behind the scenes, both brothers faced a difficult family life, mainly because of their dad, Kit Culkin. Kit Culkin was known for being really controlling and strict. He pushed his kids into acting, not because they loved it, but because he wanted them to be successful and make money. Kit didn't just manage their careers, he also treated them harshly. Kieran and Macaulay both talked about how their dad would pressure them to work long hours and would get angry if they didn't perform perfectly. Eventually, their mom, Patricia Brentrup, separated from Kit in 1995, and the kids mostly sided with her. Kit lost control of their careers and finances, and the family cut ties with him. Kieran has been open about how his dad's behavior made him more determined to build a career on his own terms. 25. Tatum O'Neal. Tatum O'Neal became super famous as a kid when she won an Oscar at just 10 years old for her role in Paper Moon. She starred alongside her dad, Ryan O'Neal, but even though she was successful, her personal life was really hard. Growing up, Tatum faced a lot of family issues. Her parents got divorced when she was young, and both her mom and dad struggled with addiction. This chaotic environment had a huge impact on her. As a teenager, Tatum started using drugs. The pressure of being famous and her tough family life led her to cocaine and heroin. In 2008, she was arrested in New York for trying to buy crack cocaine, claiming she was having a relapse. Tatum later admitted that her addiction problems started when she was young and continued for many years. Her most public relationship was with tennis legend John McEnroe. They got married in 1986 and had 3 kids. But their relationship was rocky because of Tatum's addiction. After their divorce in 1994, McEnroe got custody of the kids. In 2004, Tatum wrote a book called A Paper Life, where she shared her struggles and talked about her difficult childhood. Recently, she's been focusing on staying sober and trying to rebuild relationships with her family. 26. Corey Haim. Corey Haim was a beloved teen star in the 80s, known for movies like The Lost Boys, Lucas, and License to Drive. Fans loved his charm and good looks, especially when he teamed up with his friend Corey Feldman. But behind the scenes, Corey's life was filled with a lot of pain. Corey's problems started when he was young. During the filming of The Lost Boys, he was introduced to drugs, and his addiction quickly got worse. He battled addiction to cocaine, crack, and prescription pills for most of his life. Despite going to rehab many times, he just couldn't stay clean. His career started to fall apart, and he faced financial problems and legal issues. Corey Feldman later revealed that Haim had been abused by powerful people in Hollywood when he was just a kid. This trauma had a big impact on Haim's mental health and was part of why he struggled so much with addiction. In 2010, Corey Haim passed away at the age of 38. Although people first thought it was a drug overdose, the autopsy revealed he died from pneumonia, worsened by his health problems. 27. Brad Renfro. Brad Renfro became famous at just 11 years old when he starred in The Client with Susan Sarandon. His talent was undeniable, and he quickly became one of Hollywood's rising stars. People loved his raw acting skills and natural charisma, but despite his early success, Brad's life took a dark turn. Brad grew up in a tough environment, living with his grandmother in Tennessee. Even though he became a big star, his life off-screen was really hard. As he got older, he struggled with addiction, which led to a lot of legal trouble. In 1998, he was arrested for having cocaine and marijuana. A few years later, he he was caught trying to buy heroin. His addiction just kept getting worse, and it started to ruin his career. Sadly, Brad's addiction became more known than his acting. In 2008, at just 25 years old, he was found dead in his apartment from a heroin overdose. His death was especially tragic because it happened just a week before Heath Ledger passed away, so it didn't get as much attention. 28. Jonathan Brandis. Jonathan Brandis was a teen heartthrob in the 90s. He was known for his roles in Sequest, DSV, Ladybugs, and The Never-Ending Story 2. His acting skills and good looks made him one of the most popular young actors at the time. But as he grew older, things started to fall apart. Brandis began acting as a child model and appeared in commercials before landing big roles. His most famous role was on Sequest DSV from 1993 to 1996, where he played a computer genius on a futuristic submarine. Fans loved him, and he was featured in tons of teen magazines. But when Sequest ended, his career took a hit. He struggled to find adult roles, and his part in Heart's War was mostly cut from the final movie. This decline made Brandis feel hopeless. He became depressed as acting offers dried up, and he felt like he wasn't being taken seriously. On November 12, 2003, Jonathan Brandis sadly died by self-harm at the age of 27. 29. Dana Plato. Dana Plato became famous as Kimberly Drummond on the hit TV show Different Strokes in the late 70s and early 80s. She played a sweet and cheerful teenager, and viewers loved her. But behind the scenes, Dana's real life was far from perfect. As she grew up, Dana faced a lot of problems. At just 18, she became pregnant, and the producers wrote her out of the show. After that, it was hard for her to find acting jobs. She turned to drugs and alcohol to cope with the stress and disappointment. In 1991, Dana was arrested for robbing a video store while under the influence. A year later, she was caught trying to forge a prescription for Valium. Despite once being a star, Dana faced serious money problems. She took on roles in low-budget movies and even posed for Playboy to get by. In 1999, she appeared on The Howard Stern Show, saying she was sober. Sadly, just a day later, she passed away from an overdose, which was ruled a self-harm. 30. Edward Furlong. Edward Furlong became famous as a teenager when he played John Connor in Terminator 2: Judgment Day. At just 13, he became a Hollywood star overnight. Everyone thought he would have a long, successful career. After that, he starred in other great movies like American History X and Pecker. But behind the scenes, Edward's life was getting harder. Growing up in the spotlight was tough. After Terminator 2, Edward started battling addiction. In 1998, he was hospitalized for a heroin overdose. Over the years, he faced many legal problems. He was arrested for driving without a license and public intoxication in 2001. In 2004 and 2009, he was accused of domestic violence involving his girlfriend and ex-wife. Sadly, in 2013, he was sentenced to jail for breaking probation. Edward's career went downhill as his addiction got worse. He lost custody of his son because of his struggles. Despite his problems, he made a small comeback in 2019 with a brief appearance in Terminator: Dark Fate. If you found this video interesting, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let us know in the comments which story surprised you the most. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content.